Hey everyone, my name is Brigid and I will be your guide as we explore the beauty and challenges of motherhood through faith, intuition, and holistic health. Today, we're going to be talking about embracing grace in the chaos of motherhood. And I know how overwhelming life can feel as a mom. Trust me, I am living it with you. I have 5 little kids, 8 and under. But I've also experienced how bringing God's grace and implementing different holistic practices into our daily lives can really transform the way we approach motherhood and therefore the way we approach life in general. So let's dive in. So first off, it is a beautiful 40-degree rainy day here. I hope that you are having a lovely New Year's Eve as well. I want to share a little bit about myself so that you can get to know me better. So I am a board-certified women's health coach. I went through the Integrative Women's Health Institute, and I'm also a Billings ovulation method instructor, and I have gone through Billy Harrigan's traditional birth companion and trauma-informed professional programs as well. And I've really dedicated my work to helping moms to heal their minds and bodies after birth, to break free from old patterns, and to really create a life that they don't need a break from. Because so many of us are just getting through the day so that we can get to the end of the day. We're getting through Friday so that we can have the weekend. And that's really not how we're called to live. God does not want that for us. He wants us to live every day to the absolute fullest. So my journey into this work began with my own struggles. I experienced the ups and downs of motherhood, starting obviously with my first baby, but it really intensified after my second baby whenever I had my own traumatic birth happen. And those sleepless nights and the identity shifts that had to happen in order for me to have enough pain to change. And so through my faith, I really discovered that there was this profound connection between how we care for our bodies and our ability to embrace motherhood with peace and joy. And now I help other moms experience that same transition to go from feeling like, what's wrong with me? Why is my body broken? Why did this happen to me? Why did God allow this to happen? What did I do wrong? To finally understanding this is all part of His plan, and He will bring good from it. So let's start by acknowledging something we rarely say out loud. You might have seen this, especially if you're like me and you kind of scroll through Instagram, or if you are just around, you may have heard people say it, but nobody really says it. And that is that motherhood is really hard. For a lot of reasons. One is that you cannot control what this little person that you now have to care for is going to do. You have zero control over it. None at all. And if you are like me, who likes to have things pretty neat and tidy and in control, that can be a big struggle because it's like, no, I want you to act this way, especially in certain situations. And if they do not want to act that way in certain situations, then I can't really make them do anything to act the way that I want them to do. Sure, I can maybe remove them from that situation or implement some sort of punishment or that sort of thing, but I really can't force them to do what I want them to do. And moms, especially of older children, you will know what I mean by this. You can try to do all the things, but they're still their own person. Also, the demands on your time. Again, it's like 10 a.m. and you've probably changed how many diapers or wiped how many bums. Like, it's crazy. And just also the energy that it takes to just keep going, to keep your own emotions regulated so that they can keep their emotions regulated. So you can model that healthy behavior is so challenging. But there's also a lot of beauty in that, because if things were easy, we would never have to grow. If things were just like fine, if everything was happy-go-lucky all the time, then we would never be challenged in order to really see what areas of our life God's asking us to push through. And the best part about it is that even though it might seem like we have to do this all alone, everybody talks about how we don't have the village that we used to have and how we are no longer around people. And that is 100% true. But we also have this now thing, for better or for worse, that is the internet. And that is social media. And that is podcasts. And that is groups and so on and so on. So to say that God's grace is available to you, even in those messiest moments, even if it doesn't look like what you think you want it to look like. So even if it's not somebody sitting beside you right now, it's at least somebody that you can say, hey, I need help. You can grab your phone, you can call them, you can say that, you can message them. Again, it might not be exactly what you need or exactly what you think you need, but God has given you the ability to have support. It's just a little bit harder to find these days. So what does it mean to really embrace grace? So first off, in order to understand what grace is, we should look at a definition. So grace is defined as simple elegance or refinement of movement, or, and the second one will be a little bit more applicable, courteous goodwill. So courteous goodwill. So again, asking the question, what does it mean to embrace courteous goodwill? So for me, it starts with two things that are really, really hard for me. And the first one is surrender. The second one is intention. So with surrender is about letting go of any unrealistic expectations we place upon ourselves and trusting in God's plan. This is really challenging because, again, humans like to control things. We like to know what is happening. We like to know where things are going. And as humans, though, we don't have control over that. It might seem like we do, but we really don't. God's the only one who can control anything. So we just have to learn to trust his plan and to know that even if we mess up, he's going to make good from it. Like, he is going to do what he needs to do in order to help us back to that path towards sainthood, as long as we continue to strive towards him. The second one is intention. So intention is about aligning our daily choices with our values and goals. Now, as Christians, this is going to be how do we continue to take steps to get closer to God, to get closer to heaven, to get closer to sainthood, towards sainthood. And this might look like, practically speaking, this might look like setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care. And I don't mean self-care in that way. I mean self-care in the way of prioritizing your health so that you can prioritize other people. I heard a doctor say, self-care is health care. And that is true to some extent. It can also look like simply pausing to pray when you are feeling overwhelmed. So instead of snapping at your kids, or instead of, this is one of my biggest vices, instead of saying, what? Whenever they say mommy for the millionth time, stopping and instead responding with, yes. It's one word, but it makes a big difference, especially in the tone. So one of the hardest lessons that I've learned about this grace is that it isn't about perfection. So it's about progress. It's about showing up. It's about doing the thing even when you don't feel like doing the thing, and doing the thing even if you feel like you have nothing left to give. It's about leaning into God's love and trusting that he will carry us through. And as moms, we often try to do it all, especially on our own. But we were not made to carry the weight that motherhood is on our own. God's grace is there to help fill in the gaps. One prayer that I always send up is to the Blessed Mother, and I ask her to fill in any little cracks that I have created in my children and make them beautiful with like roses and flowers so that she can then present them to God. So, and just to clear that up, no, I'm not praying to Mary. I'm asking for Mary's help, and she is going to pray for me so that I can hopefully get to heaven too. So, as a practical example, when I was navigating postpartum challenges, especially after my second baby, with his birth that was really, really tough, I had to learn to ask for help. And at first, it felt like I was admitting weakness. and that I wasn't strong enough, and that somebody would think of me as unfit, and all those different emotions. But what actually happened is that it turned out to be one of the most grace-filled decisions that I ever made, because I had to surrender myself. So I had to lean on my husband. I had to ask for friends for help. I had to sit and do nothing because my body just couldn't do anything. And I found that I finally started to feel grace show up when I started to let go of control. And it's really hard, but it's really necessary. So I want to give you some practical tips. So I want to share 3 steps that you can take to really invite grace into your daily life. And again, grace is defined as courteous goodwill. So just keep that in mind, courteous goodwill. So the first one, it's going to be so obvious, and you've probably heard it a million times, but I'm really going to ask you to just lean into it even more. And maybe try a different routine. Maybe try something else, but try it again. That first one is start your day with prayer. So even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning, that time can set the tone for your day. And this can look like asking God to guide you. This can look like asking Him to give you strength and to help you see His will for your life, especially in moments of chaos. This doesn't mean that you necessarily have to get out of bed and get dressed and have a beautiful breakfast and go sit in the corner and sip your coffee as you eat your scone and read your Bible. If it does, that is amazing. I am jealous, but that is amazing if it does. More often than not, for me, it looks like laying in a dark bedroom because I can't get out of bed yet, because if I get out of bed, then the baby's going to wake up. And then if the baby wakes up, then I'm going to totally lose my routine of praying. So it means that I just lay there and I say prayers to myself quietly as the baby sleeps. So it's not nearly as beautiful as sitting in the corner looking out at the sunrise with a coffee and a scone, but it still gets the job done. And in this season of my life, that's what I have to do. And it's really non-negotiable. So before I do anything else, even look at my phone, I always start with prayer. Even if I wake up in the middle of the night, I always start my day with the daily offering. So, oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you, take care of everything. Or a longer daily offering prayer. And it just really helps to set the tone that I'm offering every single day to God. Because I know that at any moment, it could be the last moment. Another one that I have struggled with before, and I'll do an episode on this later, is really embracing holistic health practices. We'll do lots of podcast episodes, but my journey specifically, I'll do one on this later. So embracing your health could look different depending on what stage of life you are in right now. At the root, though, it looks like nourishing your body with whole foods, prioritizing hydration. So if you haven't had a drink today, take a drink. It also looks like gentle movement. And again, that's going to look like different things for different people. And it's important to get those 3 things in. So eating well, hydrating well. Actually, I want to add 4. Eating well, hydrating well, moving well, and resting well. So your physical health is really deeply connected to your emotional and spiritual well-being and vice versa. And so what I noticed is that whenever I started to really prioritize my health, I noticed the ripple effect. I have all the good things. I have more energy. I have more patience. I have more clarity, and so on and so on. And vice versa. Whenever I don't eat well, so for example, if I say, I'm just going to have this little thing for breakfast because I don't want to think about what I possibly have to make for breakfast. What I notice is that I then start going into our snack drawer and I start eating all the snacks. And instead of eating a breakfast that would actually help me feel full and help me feel satiated, I feel hungry. And then I eat snacks that I shouldn't be eating, not because they're bad, but because they don't make my body feel good. And then when my body doesn't feel good, my mind feels all cloudy, and it's just this ripple effect. And then I get grumpy and I get angry, and then I'm like, my life is falling apart. I'm terrible. I'm not good at anything, and so on and so on and so on. So those 4 things are really huge. And do I get through them every single day? No, I slip up a lot, unfortunately. Not a lot, but I slip up. But I can recognize that, oh, the reason that I'm being such a crazy monster is because I haven't actually eaten anything of substance today. I haven't had any protein. I didn't get enough sleep, any of those sorts of things. And then the last one is practicing gratitude. And again, you've probably heard this one before as well. But at the end of the day, I go through my journal, and I'm hit or miss with journaling. I'm on a good streak right now. But I write down how my day was and kind of what I did and anything that sticks out. But then I always go through each of my kids and my husband, and I say one thing either that I'm thankful for or something that was like really funny or cute that I want to remember. And I do that for every single kid. Because what that does is it makes me reflect on how the day went, first off, and also if I was spending enough time being present to them. Because there are some days whenever I get to them and I'm like, did I talk to you? And I just can't remember it, which means that I wasn't being truly present. So this way of thinking about it is gratitude will really help to rewire your perspective. And it really is such a game changer. So even if it doesn't mean that you sit down and journal, at least like make a voice memo or something that you can always look back and reflect upon. And another thing I want to highlight too, this isn't really like one of the top 3 that I start with to create the calm, but another one that can really help you feel calm is to start to trust yourself. So increasing the idea of self-trust. And this is difficult, especially in our culture whenever we have so much noise around us. And it's like, I don't even know what I believe. I was actually talking with a client yesterday, and we were talking about the root of like her thoughts around pregnancy and birth. And as she was reflecting, she was like, oh, maybe that's why I'm thinking the way that I did, because I lived in this area, this specific area, and they had these different thoughts about what pregnancy and birth looks like. And now I'm living in this other area, and there's different thoughts about what pregnancy and birth looks like, and there's a disconnect. So again, God gave you the instincts you need to care for your children, whether that be during pregnancy, birth, and beyond. So it's important to take time to sit in silence, as hard as it is, and to drown out everything else so that we can hear the small voice inside of us that I really believe is the Holy Spirit trying to speak to us. So I help moms by really guiding them back to that intuitive place. So through faith and different holistic practices, we quiet the noise and we reconnect with that wisdom that God has placed inside of our hearts. So for instance, if your child has a health concern, something is going wrong, you take it to prayer, obviously. But you ask God for guidance, and then you trust that He will lead you. And then I take that, so you do the prayer part, and then I take the research, and we put it together so that you can really help find clarity for what feels good for you. So before we wrap up, I want to just leave you with this thought. And this is a thought that is really hard to get into your brain, especially if you are not, or if you have any sort of history with negative self-talk or anything like that. And this is that grace isn't something you earn. It's something you receive. It's a gift from God that is freely given to sustain you through every season of motherhood. So no matter where you are right now, whether you feel on top of the world or whether you just feel like you're barely hanging on, know that grace is available to you. Know that you are made good. So really take a moment to pause and reflect on where you can invite grace into your life. And again, as a gentle reminder, grace is courteous goodwill. So where can you invite goodwill into your life? Maybe it's forgiving something you said, forgiving yourself for something you said. Maybe it's carving out 5 minutes to pray. Maybe it's telling your child you're sorry that you raised your voice at them. Whatever it is, just start really small and let it grow. If you need help figuring out whatever it is, or as you go through these steps, I really want to invite you to join my Reclaim Your Joy workshop on January 22nd, 2025, which is wild, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It's completely free, and we are going to explore intentional goal setting. So I know there's so much going on about like setting goals for 2025, and that's wonderful. I want to simplify it a little bit more because sometimes I can't do like a 2-hour workshop. Mentally, I don't have the capacity for it. And I also have a lot of little kids running around, so I don't have 2 hours that I can sit and do the thing. Ideally, yes, but I don't. So what we're going to do is really create I'm going to show you simple, heart-centered strategies to create meaningful goals that are rooted in your faith and your values. The next one is scripture-based healing. So we're going to discover how God's words can guide you in letting go of past hurts and stepping into this new year of confidence. And then renewed focus on trust. So we're going to learn practical ways to deepen your trust in God's plan for you and for your family, even in times of uncertainty. So again, I have another client who's facing a pretty significant health thing with her child. And there's just like a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen. And she's feeling the burden of it all. But we're working on her really trusting herself and that she is the mother that this child needs. God gave this child to her. And she is everything that child needs. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're walking away with a renewed sense of joy, hope, and some different practical steps to bring more peace into your life. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed the show, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review or pass it on to a friend. Until next time, may you embrace the beauty of motherhood.